I know a lot of people are going to complain and say, big deal, the first Osmo Pocket had that same feature, which is true, but it's the new features that the Pocket 3 offers that makes this feature so much better. Let's jump into what makes the active track feature so much better with the Pocket 3 and how to get the best quality out of it. First off, we're going to take advantage of the new improved Pro mode and set it to 24 frames per second, 1/50 shutter speed, set our white balance, and these next two settings are really important. We're going to select 10-bit D-Log here to get the flat color profile. This is going to give us a nice neutral starting point for color grading our footage in post. If you don't want to do any editing and need to run the camera in auto mode, there's still a few things you can do to make your footage coming straight out of the camera look a little more cinematic. For starters, when you're shooting outdoors with any camera, you're going to need some shades. DJI and a few other places offer some good sets of ND filters, and if you don't use these, especially in auto, your shutter speed is going to get cranked up really high, making your movements look less realistic and more mechanical. You'll notice there's only a few settings we can change in auto mode. We have glamour settings, which you can play around with if you want, and inside the custom settings here we can drop our sharpness to -2 and adjust the noise a little if needed. That's all we can really change in auto, but that should make your footage look a lot better. By making these changes in the Pro mode and using it with the tracking features is going to allow you to color grade your pocket footage so it matches your camera footage in your project. Not being stuck with the over-sharpened mechanical look that came out of the first Osmo Pocket is a big game changer in my book. Now let's start tracking. The most popular feature amongst vloggers is the auto detect face tracking. If you're going to use this feature a lot, then you'll want to start out by swiping down on the main screen and turning on FT's selfie mode. This will tell the camera to automatically start tracking your face when you turn the camera to selfie mode. If you want it to stop tracking your face, simply press the joystick once and tracking will stop. FT selfie mode is still selected, so the next time you turn the camera facing you, it'll pick you back up again. Or you can just double tap on your face on the screen and face tracking will also pick you up again this way. Tracking any subject is just a matter of double tapping on the screen of the Pocket 3 or drawing a rectangle around it in the Mimo app. You don't need to select any of the tracking functions. If you do want to track yourself, then you'll have to use the Mimo app. The app is also nice to get a more precise selection of the subject you're tracking with a larger screen. A couple things to note when you're trying to track yourself or a subject. You're going to want to make sure your subject is pretty isolated when you select it. If the subject blends in with the background or there's a lot of items around it, then it's not going to get a good reading. Another important thing to note is that when you're tracking yourself or another person, it's going to lock onto your head and use that to track. So the second you duck out of the scene, the camera is going to lose you until you come back into the scene, where most of the times it should pick you back up. I'm hoping with the firmware update that we can select our whole body in the Mimo app like you would with the drone's active track, so it gives the camera more surface area to detect when tracking. For some reason, it'll let you draw a large rectangle around yourself in the Mimo app, but it loses you pretty quick, so I'm not sure what it's actually detecting. Whenever you want to exit tracking, simply press on the center of the joystick once and it's done. Tracking tip. The Pocket 3 will track something until it gets pretty small, but it won't select something if it's too small. To get around this, we can zoom into our subject, select it, then slowly zoom out and it should track it just fine. Remember to make sure your subject is isolated and not blending in with stuff in the background. On the left side of the main screen, we have an icon for the actual active track features. The first one here is Face Auto Detect. This is going to select any face that's closest to the center of the screen. This feature works pretty good, but you have to remember that it won't start tracking your face until recording begins. This might come in handy if you don't have access to the Mimo app and won't be able to select yourself on the screen. This way you just hit record and trust that the camera is going to pick you up. You'll actually see the gimbal following your movements if it picks you up. Remember to go back into the menu and exit out of this feature if you don't want it to keep detecting a face in the center of the screen. The next one down in our active track menu is dynamic framing. This is going to select an area to track rather than a target. This is good if you'll be moving the camera and want to keep a certain area or stationary object framed in one of the 9 set positions on the screen. Select dynamic framing and 9 little circles come up representing the area on the screen where your object will be framed. Move the joystick to one of these areas and press the center of the joystick to select it. Now a green box will appear in that area or around an object in that area, and it'll be locked in while you move the camera. This seems to be the most precise way of tracking a stationary object with the Pocket 3. Tracking tip. You can actually frame yourself or any subject by moving the joystick to any position on the Pocket 3 or in the Mimo app. While you're already recording and tracking, move the joystick so you or the subject is where you want it to be in the frame, and that's where it'll stay while you're recording. This is the fastest way to get your vlogs or videos framed just right. I think that's about all there is to the tracking feature of the new Osmo Pocket 3. As I mentioned, the main feature that's making the active track so much better is the 10-bit D-Log color profile, so you can professionally color grade your nice smooth tracking footage. I did lose my subject a few times when the motion was too fast or the lighting was too dark in the shadows. I think DJI can get the tracking to stay locked onto the subjects a little bit better, hopefully in a future firmware update. Let me know in the comments below how the Active Track is treating you or if you have any helpful tips. Until then, we'll see you again in the great digital outdoors.